Okay, let's give some context to the first PR for SCIM. So this adds the SCIM support for Okta. And we do not have integration tests, but we are able to run the Okta SCIM test. And I've got the links to documentation and stuff in the PR contributor docs. But here, basically, the whole suite is passing, except for groups. So the suite is not extensive, but it is passing. Enter ID also has tests, but they require some additional support, filtering support for their patch endpoint. So, we will add that later after we're completely done with Okta. So let's go to the files. So SCIM is a separate package. And in the serve, we register the handler. This is the contributor doc I mentioned with some links and database tables. This is the SCIM package that creates the handler. This is the configuration from the third-party library, which is this one. Configure the schema, and then create the resource type user handler. Some additional stuff. So here we've got the middleware. We have authorization middleware, which is custom to this method. It's pretty straightforward, actually. It's right here. We basically have a global authorize for everyone. We have authentication middleware, which is based on what we have already. We have log response middleware based on what we have. Set request context, that's also based on what we have already. Rewritten to support HTTP handler as opposed to endpointer. Error handler has to be SCIM specific, so we set the proper content type here, and we include the detail and the status in the SCIM error. It also includes some other details like schema, and that's all part of marshalling. The users. So the SCIM package exposes or expects you to use this resource handler interface. So we use this resource handler to create users. And this is just converting from resource to a concrete type here and back and forth. Get a resource. Get all of the resources. Currently for Okta, we need to support filtering by username. I believe, yeah, this is all we support in this method, filtering by username. Resource filter, username. Here we go. We expect it to be a username equals. Replace. It's pretty straightforward. Delete, straightforward. Patch. For patching, we only support the active attribute, which is all we need for Okta. But we will need to support more for Enter ID. Even though we support one attribute, it still looks like a lot of code. I am explicitly logging stuff here, just so we can review it for any debug purposes. Normalizing email. So first part is case sensitive. Domain is not case sensitive. Apparently that is how it's defined in this RFC. Okay, policy rego, just single write permission for SCIM user. And these are the tables that are being created. I think we discussed the schema. One thing I only have the created at timestamp in this join table. It feels like updated at is not necessary. SCIM, MySQL SCIM create user, get by ID, get by username, replace. So we do an update here, but for email, I'm kind of using a more simple method, which I delete existing emails and just reinsert them. Delete user, list users. We filter this method. The previous method only filtered by username. This method can filter by email type and email value. So that is to set up for enter ID support later. Let's see, tests, data store, methods on the interface, SCIM types, mocks. Okay, this middleware. So this authenticate user middleware is basically the same thing as our this endpoint authenticate middleware. So this middleware is based on an endpoint. This one's based on a handler, but basically the same code. HTTP auth. I just call the above method set request context here. Same with logging. I just call the above method log request end here. And that's it. I believe that's it. Let's go back. Maybe. Okay.